Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Field Friday for the week. Approximately 30 days, we discussed cover crops in depth and the advantages that they bring to a row crop and livestock operation. And those advantages include breaking up compaction, building organic matter, decreasing erosion, and then also feed value in livestock operations. And so here today, a lot's changed in the last 30 days. We've had customers go ahead and have time to seed and have the ability that once corn silage come out, seed the cover crops. And so today, this Field Friday, we're going to look at some of the growth and the advantages that we see already in the short window that those cover crops have been seeded. So in the field today, I'm happy to say this customer seeded about a bushel and a half of seal rye, 3 pounds of tillage radish 23 days ago. And in the last 3 weeks, we've had experienced quite a bit of rain, as you're well aware. And in that short amount of window, it is very impressive to stand in the field to see the amount of growth that we have. I dropped a tape measure just a little bit ago, and we have about 4 to 5 inches of growth. And this grower's intention was to get into the field right after corn silage, drill as soon as he can, and shortly thereafter we started receiving rain that did not stop for a couple weeks, and then here we are. The grower's intention is late fall, that after he brings cows home from the pasture, that he has a place to graze the field, and we anticipate with some few more warm sunny days that this cover crop, being with the moisture we got, is going to explode. So one of the other benefits that we talked about with cover crops is breaking up compaction and building organic matter. And so this field has been corn on corn for better than 5 years. And so I just have a pitchfork that I'm using, and just to show you the benefit. And so if you zoom in, or you can see that, however tall the height of the cover crop is, it's about 4 or 5 inches tall, is about how deep the root system is. And even by taking the pitchfork, I broke off some of the smaller root material that's below ground. But it's pretty impressive, again, however tall the cover crop is, that is what it is below ground. The other interesting thing, if you zoom in, not only do you see a lot of the root material from that rye just in the three short weeks that it's been planted, you can see the earthworm activity. And if you look, if you can see this, there's a lot of earthworms. And what's also impressive, being that this is a long-term corn on corn field that's had corn chopped off, in a lot of those situations the ground can be extremely hard, and you just notice how the soil just breaks apart real easy like. And there's an earthworm just right there. And so you think, how does cover crops build organic matter? Well, it's a systems approach, and so the more tillage that we have in our operation, it disrupts the natural process of nature. So by having lots of root material and plants having more green growing year-round, we're capturing carbon dioxide with the plant growing, and it stores it in the soil when that plant dies. And with that extra root material and plant material, earthworms, mycorrhizae, fungi, and bacteria break that material down and bring it into our basically organic matter. And so again, I've tore it off, but just from that little bit of short ride, you can see how much plant material that we have already. One question that comes up often with livestock producers is, will putting or applying manure on top of cover crop hinder the growth or development, or will it smother it out? And the answer is, we're standing in this field that, again, the customer seeded it right after corn silage, and he needed to get rid of some bedding and dry manure. And with the good vertical beater spreaders that we have today, and as long as the manure is fairly dry, it really doesn't bother. And as you look in the field behind me, we really have a hard time identifying where the tracks are, where the spreader went. And we do see remnants or leftover pieces of manure material, corn stalks, etc., and bedding that is pretty well starting to be broken down, even in the short couple weeks that it's been applied on top of the field. In discussing with the customer this morning, He applied when the cereal rye was about an inch or two at best, and it was pretty tender and young. And again, you can see it's impressive that the rye has had the ability to grow through that and not really be impacted at all, which is important, I believe, because in the fall we are crunched for time, and I think it's imperative that we get the cover crop planted as soon as the crop gets out, and if you have to apply manure, that we can do that at a later date, and that the manure doesn't have to go ahead of being planting the cover crop. So here we're taking a look at the customer, like we talked about, had applied dry feedlot manure, and just taking a closer look, a lot of the manure in just the 3 short weeks has started to break down. And so by the pliers you can see some of the material, and there's not a lot of left already, and some of the earthworm activity is also taking that plant material below ground and breaking that down. So again, for customers that raise concerns, do I apply manure before or after cover crop? I hope you realize that it's imperative to get the cover crop growing as soon as we can, right after taking harvest, to get the most growth out of it, and apply manure later if necessary. The other benefit that we talked about with cover crop is scavenging nutrients. And so we're going to take a look at the root material and the root matter, and as that plant grows, the roots go deeper and deeper, and it's pulling and retaining deeper nutrients, particularly nitrogen that's down deeper in the soil profile, and it's in the plant and it's holding it into the system so that it's not leached deeper into soil profile and therefore lost with tile water or groundwater. Here we are in a field of standing corn in which cover crop was seeded between August 24th and 27th at a total seeding rate of 75 pounds per acre. The seed consisted of cereal rye, canola seed, crimson clover, and tillage radish. And as you can see, with the amount of rain that we received this fall, establishment has been excellent, just aerial applying it. One very interesting key to notice, that this field was no-tilled into standing rye this spring. The standing rye was about a foot tall when the grower planted the field, and you can see the previous residue is completely gone. We anticipate that that caused increased earthworm activity, and if you look very, very closely, the large clumps of cover crop, and this might be difficult to see, but the earthworm activity have actually grabbed the seed that was laying on top and brought it down into the burrow and is established accordingly. What I'd like to demonstrate is take a look at the mounds created by the earthworms, and what's impressive in this field, just trying to evaluate walking through, about 90% of the seed was taken down into the earthworm burrow, and that's how the seed established rather than just laying on top of the ground. Even though with adequate rain that will occur, the seed will germinate. But it's just impressive noting, I didn't realize that until I took a little bit closer look up, that about 80 to 90% of the seed was taken anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch into the earthworm burrow and established. That's important too, because noting that this field was no-tilled into a foot tall rye, and so I'm sure there's actually enhanced levels of earthworm activity without the disruption of tillage and the cover crop that was growing this spring. And thus, again, this fall when we reapply cover crop, we're seeing the advantages of the earthworm activity too. And it's just something I wanted to point out, that I didn't quite expect to see that much activity, but again, not only it just shows to prove the power of the earthworm activity and water filtration and the recycling of nutrients, that I wanted to point that out. So this customer is trying to accomplish several different things with using cover crops. One is helping break up compaction and erosion control, building organic matter, and we've discussed that roots long-term build organic matter. And then lastly, just the diversity of the 4 different types of cover crops in this mix, with the tillage radish breaking up compaction, the cereal rye is scavenging nutrients, and with the crimson clover is fixing some in, and then the canola is in there as well. but as you can see, stand establishment was outstanding. In the last 3 years, our fall aerial application has come very, very well, just again due to the minimum. If we can capture an inch of rain or more, establishment should not be a problem. So this grower intends to let this grow over winter, and next spring, ahead of soybeans, terminate it with herbicide and then plant right into it and realize the benefits of what they're trying to accomplish. So this field is enrolled in a cover crop program in Rock County, Minnesota. And so what the grower is trying to do is show different seeding rates. And so the airplane applied 25 pounds, 50 pounds, or 75 pounds in different strips. And so we're going to evaluate what kind of establishment and growth are we getting at those different seeding rates. The purpose of the different seeding rates is to see how low can we go but still receive maximum benefit in regards to that, to try to keep cost at a reasonable amount so that so we have more opportunity to adopt that practice over more acres. So stay tuned on how this field, once the crop is harvested, we are intending to take the drone and fly the drone over and evaluate the different stand establishment. And again, we'll follow this field through harvest. So if you have any other questions in regarding to the 2 different fields that we looked and how those growers established cover crops, what they're trying to accomplish, how they're going to manage it in their operation, feel free to ask any one of CFE co-op agronomists or myself. And with that, look forward to seeing how this turns out.